Sick of the rioting? Tired of watching our beautiful cities being looted? Are you angry at seeing historical monuments being desecrated and torn down? Today, no matter what your political party or social beliefs, we all want law and order, especially safe streets and the protection of free speech, freedom to express our opinion, say what we believe, without fears of being attacked. Since the incident involving George Floyd, the radical left is using more violence and cult-like behavior to advance their agenda.
They're about to breach the back gate. They're taking heavy rocks.
Leaving many, even within the Democratic Party, frightened to hear calls to defunding our police, the only people protecting ordinary people like us. Allied with the Democratic Party and the left-wing media, these movements are not designed to help blacks who are struggling, but instead promote a Marxist agenda and dismantle authority. Early on in the George Floyd protests, the media downplayed the seriousness of the riots.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly. It is not generally speaking unruly. But fires have been started and
Beyond the hypocrisy of the press, it's obvious that Black Lives Matter and Antifa are terrorist groups with no respect for law and order. Even more nerve-wracking is the fact that corporations are donating millions of dollars to these groups and publicizing their support. Organized terrorist groups who simply wish to use violence instead of proposing practical solutions.
You're trying to basically cut off both arteries.
Yeah,
So you
hopefully
can, squeeze.
Basically, imagine this is their neck. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your choking iron and you're just stick it out, palm down, like a not so cool Nazi salute. And you're just gonna curl it across. And so this point your elbow should be right underneath their chin.
What can ordinary people do to return our country to a prosperous economy again? The very fate of America may rest on the upcoming election. Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, is frequently unable to complete simple sentences and sadly has not pushed back against all the madness that's destroying our great nation.
The conservative columnist, and they'd say to you, take my shotgun. I said, I have 3, I now have 5 because my son died and I have 3 of his. I have 5 shotguns.
So have a mechanism to control drug prices. You know, it's not, we're no longer using chemical-based things. All this thing we're dealing with, cancers and other issues relating to the immune system, are bio-oriented.
We are at risk of allowing a poor economy and lawlessness to take over. You might be a regular person, possibly not that political, asking yourself, what the hell is going on in this country? Wondering who's going to stand up for your rights, including being safe on the streets and in your own home. You might be wondering why Black Lives Matter supporters are vandalizing statues of great presidents like Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt, or even abolitionists such as Hans Christian Heg and Frederick Douglass.
Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children. This attack on our liberty, our magnificent liberty, must be stopped, and it will be stopped very quickly. We will expose this dangerous movement, protect our nation's children, end this radical assault, and preserve our beloved American way of life.
Love him or hate him, President Trump has spoken out against the madness besieging our cities and historical monuments. Now more than ever, we need a leader who respects law and order, as well as our beloved American heritage. Someone who will protect every citizen's constitutional rights. Democrat or Republican, everyone needs these basic rights. And no matter who you support, knowing history is important for all. The Democratic stronghold in American cities is so pervasive, there's hardly any room for any kind of political differences. For those of you living in Seattle, Atlanta, Baltimore, New York, Chicago, and other cities with far-left governors, this would be an understatement. Are you willing to settle for the Democratic Party and a candidate of questionable leadership? Right now, we need mayors and governors who respect law and order. We need a president who protects our rights at all costs. Why is it okay for protesters and rioters to cause violence in the streets and risk the spread of coronavirus, but it's not okay for Trump supporters to have a rally? In addition, the Black Lives Matter movement is constantly blaming systemic racism and accusing police and conservatives as racist, while ignoring their own blatant discrimination against all whites.
Mount Rushmore isn't exactly the innocent ode to our founding fathers as described in our textbooks, and it's high time we disrupt that false narrative that far too many people believe. Here we are, celebrating the birth of a nation, independence for white men, at a site described by one Native American activist as, quote, a symbol of white supremacy.
We are so blinded by race warfare that we ignore the true purpose of this country, that no matter who you are or what you look like, success in this country is determined by merit. We are a colorblind meritocracy.
First is vigorous defense of total equality under the law. We are equal because we are citizens. Every American has precisely the same rights as every other American. Period. That is the promise of America. It's why millions of people move here. For a long time, we knew that. No one questioned it. It was obvious, but it no longer is obvious, and there are many who are working in the opposite direction. Republicans must counterbalance this. They must work as hard as they can to make America fair again. Wealth, appearance, ancestry can play no role whatsoever in the eyes of the law. That means that criminals like Jeffrey Epstein must go to jail the first time they're caught molesting children. It means your children must have precisely the same chances of getting into college or getting a job as anyone else's children. It means fighting to make this a colorblind meritocracy. A colorblind meritocracy. Say it again. The alternative to that is disaster. Slavery and Jim Crow were immoral precisely because they punished people for how they were born. Any system that punishes people for how they were born is immoral always. Don't get caught in pointless debates about whether or not this is a racist country. Clearly it isn't. Prove it by making it less racist, by making it a colorblind meritocracy. That's our promise.
Tired of the hypocrisy, the lies, and deceit? Looking for truth? Learn more before it's too late.